sign. Now, moving on, I put this picture in here because we need to know what's really going on overseas because this is key. This is key. I put this picture here so you can see Israel. You see Israel, the West Bank, Haifa. You see Beirut, Lebanon. You see Damascus, Syria. You see Jordan in this picture, right? But one thing you'll notice is you see Israel down the left-hand corner. You see Lebanon above her. Technically, they beefing. You see Damascus, Syria next to them. Well, technically, they're beefing too. Oh, you see Jordan down there to the right. Well, Jordan's trying to play the political role, so they're not trying to really get too much into that whole thing from the Islamic State because they don't want to lose what ties they have with the West right now. They're getting a lot of money and support from the West. But make no mistake about it. When they have to choose a side, when it all goes down, you know who Jordan's going to side with. The Islamic State. Now, can we move to the next slide? Thank you, thank you. That is giving you a shot of that particular region right there. That is Israel, and that are the countries that are surrounding it. It says she'll be surrounded by her enemies. Can we get the next slide, please? Oh, yeah. Now, you see here a picture of Africa. Big, beautiful, beautiful country, Africa. Love it, love it. Gotta go there someday. Just above Africa, you're going to see a section called the Middle East, recently viewed. And you'll see Saudi Arabia and Ethiopia. This area right here, Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Ethiopia, you see a pathway of water that goes in between Africa and the Middle East. That is a critical part of the infrastructure for shipping here on our planet. Most of the goods that come from Asia, they come through that area. If they can't make it through that area, they have to go all the way down past the southern tip of Africa, past Madagascar, past South Africa, go around the Cape of Good Hope, which is down there at the bottom tip of South Africa. They have to go around Cape of Good Hope, then go around all the rest of Africa just to get to the rest of Europe. And then they ship their things to the West, right? Now, can we move to the next slide, please? This little stretch of water right there, the Bab el-Mandab Strait, is critically important, critically valuable. And it's also the source of a lot of conflict going on right now. Right now, we have been battling with the people in Yemen because they keep bombing us. They keep sending missiles, anti-aircraft missiles, anti-ship missiles, things of that nature, drones, out to any ship crossing through that strait. The problem is that strait is important to shipping. Most of people that ship commerce, most of the oil tankers, most of the people that ship goods from the east, they have to go through this strait in order to get to Europe, right? If they're not able to go through this strait and they have to go through the south, they have to go around Africa, that adds an extra 10 to 15 days, easily an extra 10 to 15 days to their trip. And more billions of dollars going down the drain because they had to go further because of security and everything else, right? This area has been hard for them to ship through because every time a ship goes through it, they're shipping a bomb, they're attacking. So what the United States do, we say, you know what, we've had enough. Can you go ahead and move to the next slide? The United States said, you know what, we're done. So go back one. Oh, back a couple. Okay, now go, yeah, there you go, right there. So the United States said, you know what, enough is enough. And so what happened is we went into Yemen. We didn't go into Yemen with boots on the ground. We sent missiles and we basically took out some of their infrastructure that were housing their weapons depots, their radars. We done went into Yemen. We started bombing Yemen. And I said, oh, wow, that was quicker than expected. I was thinking the weekend, like this weekend or next week. They went in last week, right? Nobody's really talking about it. And that is something to pay attention to. They are not really talking about it like they should. When in reality, this is something that we were all waiting on because everyone that's tracking what's going on knows that once the United States goes into Yemen to go after the Houthis, which they have every right to, it becomes a powder keg waiting to explode. It becomes a situation that can exponentially grow, and it's going to grow. The Houthis have already said, make no mistake about it, we coming for y'all. There will be retaliation for your attacks. And of course, they always do that. That's what people do. We attack them. They say, we're coming at you. And then they come at you and blah, 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 you're back and forth. But this is different because this is another catalyst to take things to another level. So if you look right here on the screen, you see Russia versus Ukraine. Yeah, that's been going on now for a couple of years now. We know about that. Israel versus Hamas. That started October 7th, October 6th. We know about that, right? U.S. versus Yemen is what we're talking about right now because we had to take out the Houthis because the Houthis are backed by Iran. They're getting their money, their supplies from Iran. So there's not much shortage for them. They can keep restocking and resupplying, which is why we had to take out certain facilities. And we will continue to, because after the first strike, we did a couple more. And we will continue to. That's just the way it is. Wars and desolation have been decreed. Now, moving forward, Israel versus Hezbollah. That one is about to go down. On the Lebanese border, Israel has already, over the last several weeks now, in fact, up until 2 weeks ago, how can I put this? As of a little over a week ago, they've already evacuated the majority of the northern border with Lebanon because they know they're about to have to go at it with Hezbollah. And for those that know, y'all know Hezbollah, they the big boys. Hamas is the little boys. They like the little brother that, that's trying. Hezbollah, they like that big brother, the one that's the captain of the football team that ain't got no doggone sense. That's what Hezbollah's like, right? But they're getting backing from Iran, so they have tons of support. And Hezbollah does this. They're more sophisticated than Hamas. So you're talking about war on a whole nother level in Lebanon. North Korea versus South Korea. They've been talking about that forever. We already know this. But recently, North Korea has basically said, you know what? We're not reunifying with South Korea. We're done with that. We want to wipe South Korea off the map. They stopped communication with South Korea. And just recently, in the last few days, they stopped radio broadcasts with South Korea. So there's no more cooperation, no more cooperation whatsoever between North Korea and South Korea, which means it's only a matter of time before that powder keg explodes. Israel versus Syria. That's another front. Syria, Damascus, has been an issue. That's how they move a lot of weapons into Israel over the last couple of decades. They've been moving them in through Syria because they can bring them into Syria, then slide them through Lebanon and bring them on down, right? The Bible says Damascus will be a heap of rubble, never inhabited again. Well, there's still people in Damascus right now because it was destroyed before, but there's still people there, which means there's a whole nother level of destruction still coming for Damascus. And make no mistake about it, when this war really gets going hard, and they start using these more serious weapons, they're going to take out Damascus, because taking out Damascus directly clears a road and a pathway that weapons would normally travel through. So, moving on, you got Iran. Iran doesn't like anybody. They don't like the U.S. They don't like Israel. They don't like us. They want to wipe Israel off the map. And they don't like us because we back Israel. And they don't like our policies, but that's a whole other story. China versus Taiwan. That one is interesting because that one is going to go down a lot sooner than we think. China has said Taiwan is a part of us and we are coming back for our land. China has built man-made islands specifically for the purpose of putting military bases there, which they have done successfully. They're girding up their loins. They're getting mobbed up. They're getting ready to go after Taiwan. And they've basically, over the last couple of years, so much is said in 2024 is pretty much going to be the year when they're coming at them. Now, if they were to go to them right now, it would be a little difficult because we protect Taiwan. We back Taiwan. What happens when the United States is fighting in Yemen full time? What happens when we're fighting and helping Israel against Hezbollah? What happens when North Korea and South Korea are going at it? Once the United States is spread thin, it becomes easier for China to say, you know what, let's go ahead and take Taiwan right now. And I'll do you another note. Taiwan had their elections yesterday. They elected William Lai, L-A-I, as their new president. He's an independent. He's an independent who loves the West and loves the securities of the West, but also doesn't want to upset China and is a little scared of China. So he's already saying he's opening up talks with China again. He just got elected and already said he's opening up talks with China again. It's a precarious situation because he does not want to cause any problems with China. At the same time, he needs our support and our money and our weapons and everything else. So he could go either way. But I got a feeling that Taiwan issue is going to ramp up on us real soon. So now, India versus China. This is one that gets passed over so much because people don't know a lot about what's going on in India. India is a very powerful country and a nuclear country. And India does not like China or China's ways. India has told China countless times, we have a problem with y'all because of what you guys keep doing and because of how you're patrolling these waters, how you keep saying this part of the sea is yours, this part of the ocean is yours, and it causing issues for their shipping. So India basically told China a couple weeks ago, they put China on blast and let them know they're ready for whatever. Venezuela over there. What Venezuela got to do with anything? Everybody needs proxies. All the countries, the United States got proxies everywhere. We got proxies all over Europe, some areas of South America, some parts of Africa, and the Middle East. Because if we have to carry out war, we need a proxy area there to be able to move from, right? Russia got that too. Venezuela is one of their proxies. Venezuela does not like the West, and they've spoken a lot against the West lately. And I did not put it in here, but Venezuela has also just signed another deal to get more weapons, more jets, and more planes from China. So there you go. They're getting backed by Russia and by China. Now, the inevitable we have listed there, U.S. versus Russia. I don't even have to speak on that. You already know what it is. U.S. versus China. I don't have to speak on that. You already know what that is. It's coming. Because once we get involved with all these other conflicts, it's only a matter of time before there's direct confrontation with us and Russia, which is a lot sooner than us and China. But those conflicts are coming. Then I have at the bottom, U.S. versus Iran, Syria, the Islamic State, because they all hate us. So now on that end, you have countries that have sleeper cells. You have countries that have terrorists that have carried out activities all across the world. You have countries that want to see us fall. And they don't say, oh, you must stop doing what you're doing. They say stop doing what you're doing. And then on top of that, they say death to America, death to Israel. They're not saying peace. They're not saying we got to find a solution. They're saying death, 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 death to America. That means there are people in those areas that want to take us out and want to see us gone. And if you know anything about murderous people, or the evilness of this world, you know that it's not a far-fetched idea. If thugs and bangers will kill each other for a little piece of a square block, if another person will kill another person because of the color of their skin, if someone will kill somebody because of the clothes they're wearing, you're talking about money, power, land, and everything else in this area. And then you're talking about people that believe in their head because of ideologies and because of what's put out there in the media to spin for their particular area. They believe they've been suppressed by the United States. So now they're all amped up and ramped up and ready to unite against us. So after 9/11, they told us after 9/11, well, there's still sleeper cells here. They could be anywhere. We're not sure, but we have to stay vigilant. And for the next 2 years, you didn't hear nothing about actual terrorist attacks. But they kept on snatching up terrorists or terroristic people left and right for the next couple of years. Them sleeper cells ain't gone nowhere. If they were there then, they're still here now. You have all the immigrants coming through the border, and then you got the Texas governor putting them on buses and shipping them up north without vetting them. How do you know these people you're putting on buses may not be an enemy state actor? How do you know that it may not be a Chinese national that's coming here for a specific purpose of doing some things? They don't care, because at the end of the day, when the stuff hits the fan, they got bunkers. They good to go. Sir, save your question for the end. I'll answer your question at the end, sir. UN, Germany, France, they're all charging up Russia and its allies, which is funny because their armies and their military is nothing compared to the people they're talking trash about. But they still talking mad trash. Why? Because as NATO and as a group with the back of the United States, they can kind of do what they want to do, right? It's like when you beefing with somebody and y'all the same size, but then you get that big dude come and walk behind you, and you're like, yeah, now I got my crew, now I can do what I want to do. It's kind of one of those things, right? But they're talking trash to countries that have hundreds of millions, hundreds of thousands, and in one case, a couple 100 million people ready to walk across the Euphrates, ready to mob out and put their boots on and go at it. Some of these people, that's what they're trained for. So it's about to go down. Thank you. Can you move? I'll get moving to the next slide for me, please. The Olivet Discourse. Matthew 24, Jesus is speaking in the Olivet Discourse. He says, and you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not frightened or troubled, for this must take place, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, which we're seeing right now, and kingdom against kingdom, which we're seeing right now. And there'll be famines, which we're seeing right now, and earthquakes in place after place. Earthquakes in place after place. I will tell you this much. On the 31st, December 31st, 2023, not long before midnight, probably a few hours before midnight, a solar flare came off the sun, which was the largest solar flare that it has put off in over 7 years. Gotta love it. God's timing. Largest solar flare in over 7 years came off the sun on December 31st. What that trigger was on the first of the year, you saw earthquakes everywhere. People talk about the earthquake that hit Japan and China. We hear, those of us that were in California at the time know that California shook a little bit here and there too. What people are not realizing is the first of the year, there are more earthquakes worldwide than any other one-day time period in, I can't remember the number of years, but in a long time. I got to go back and find that. It shook everything from the islands to like the Virgin Islands, all the United States, places in Europe, places in Asia, Indonesia. There's a list of all these different places that got hit with these earthquakes. Japan, China, California, Hawaii, Alaska, Indonesia, Fiji, Northern Marianas Islands, Yellowstone, El Salvador, Mexico, Chile, New Mexico, Texas, Virgin Islands again. All were hit with at least a 2.5 or greater that day. Earthquakes in place after place. All this is but the beginning, the early pains. All this is but the beginning, the early pains. All this is but the beginning, the birth pains of the intolerable anguish. I put this here. I like the Amplified Bible because of the way it breaks certain things down. When it says all this is but the beginning, the early pains, which we know, of the birth pains, then in parentheses says, of the intolerable anguish. I'm thinking, wow, that sounds deep. But when you think about the things that are going to come upon the people that will be here on the earth after the rapture, that's some intolerable stuff. We're not going to get into it in this message, but the next message I bring, we're going to talk about how bad it's going to be for the people left behind. Trust me, it's about to go down. Oh, thank you, sir. Matthew 24, verse 44. You also must be ready. Therefore, the Son of Man is coming at an hour when you do not expect him. We can know when he's near based on the signs of the time, but you're not going to know when it's going to happen until it happens. I can tell you this much. Based on the signs of the times, look up because it's coming, it's near. Iran moved warships into the Red Sea after we took down the Houthi swift boats. Ukraine's mobilizing. They have a mobilization law that's going to be the blueprint for test runs for other countries. Their mobilization law literally states, if you want to be a citizen, if you want to have basic services like healthcare, if you want to be able to move to and fro, you're going to have to do time. Do time as in military time, as in you're going to have to fight for the country as a citizen if you want to become a citizen, if you want to stay a citizen. Otherwise, you won't even have basic services. It's the craziest thing in the world. But they signed that into law January 10th. U.S. bases getting attacked all over the place. War on the Lebanese front. The Red Sea shipping lanes are finally back open. I mean, there's just so much going on telling us what time it is. The governments of the world are preparing for what's going on. And furthermore, the people with money and power are preparing. So when you see the rich folks, when you see them trying to find doomsday bunkers and caves, because the Bible says they're going to crawl in there and they're going to ask for the rocks to fall on them and hide them. But the Bible clearly states there'll be no place to hide. So unless you have a relationship with our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, you are hit. Period, point blank. If a person does not have a relationship with Jesus Christ, they are in for a world of trouble going into this 70th week. That's what I want people to focus on. He's coming, he told us many times, I'm coming in an hour when you won't expect. But if you knew a thief was coming at night, you would stay up. You would be prepared. You would get your Mossberg, and you had one person on the back, one person on the front, probably somebody up on top of the window, just because you knew somebody was about to run up in your crib, right? We need to be prepared for his coming, spiritually, mentally, physically, and be prepared for what's coming before then. Because even though he is coming, what's coming on the world, the birth pains, are going to be some monumental things. He told us to come out of the world. He told us to minister to the world, but not to be of the world. Meaning, we need to be spending our time serving his will, his purpose, taking care of our families, making sure we're prepared, making sure we're able to make it through. Because if the rapture doesn't happen for another 6 months, but you live in an area that may lose power, God may have a mission for you to speak to somebody come September. But if you don't have food enough to live and make it to September, how are you going to do what God asked you to do? That's why we need to be walking with him so we can hear him clearly as he speaks to us. The distractions make it hard for us to hear him. And it's a lot of distractions in the world today that make it hard for us to hear him. But when we sit there and we just say, you know what, God, I got you. I'm listening. He opens up the floodgates. And he said in his last days, an outpouring of blessing is going to be like never before. And I can tell you, I'm seeing it. I am seeing it on so many levels. Rich, rich, rich. I'm not just talking about rich financially. I'm talking about rich in spirit, rich in heart, rich in health, rich in just watching how many times he saves us, rich in watching how many times he carries us. If you're on this call right now, if you're on this service right now, it means he's been speaking to you. That means he's been guiding you. That means he's putting you in position. So keep going, keep moving, because his outpouring of blessings, he said in his word, the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the poor, right? It's stored up for the righteous. So we are starting to see that transition, and that transition is going down this year. It started big going down the last couple of years, but you're going to see a whole nother level this year. I've been seeing some high-name people that have a great profession for God. I've been seeing how they've been able to move recently. In spite of all the people that are demonic, that are in power, that don't want to see these people move, these people have been blessed because God said he was going to take care of his people in these last days. I'm seeing it here. I'm seeing it in the school. I'm seeing it in the different areas. I'm seeing it over social media. I go on YouTube this past week. I see more people talking about the second coming of Christ than I think I've ever seen before. I see more people paying attention to what's going on than I've ever seen before. But on the flip side of that, I also see more people getting more and more demonic, more people challenging God, more people being downright disrespectful. There's a certain singer, rapper, my son knows I will not listen to my son. They'll quickly say, hey, that's him, turn him off. I love it. I love that part. Keep doing what y'all doing. This guy is so disrespectful. It is ridiculous. And I'm not even going to say his name. But make no mistake about it. I'm looking at what he's doing right now, and I said, oh, Lord, this poor guy, he don't know what kind of wrath he's storing up for him, because God's wrath is coming. The outpouring of his wrath is the 7 years. That is what the 7 years is all about, especially the second 3.5 years. That's called the Great Tribulation. That is the bowl judgments. We're going to get into that. But all you need to know is this right now. He's coming soon. Listen to him. Be prepared. Pay attention. If you're going to listen to somebody on social media or the news or anything else, make sure you vet it. If somebody's going to tell you something from God, you should be able to find it in his word. The word rapture, you can't find that in our Bible, but you can find harpazo in the Greek, and rapio in the Latin, and you find caught up, which is the very definition of rapture. So that is indeed in there. But people put a lot of other stuff in there that's not really in there. And you see a lot of false doctrines these days. So be careful who you listening to. Be careful. If you're not sure, if you're thinking about listening to somebody you're not sure, call pastor, text pastor. She'll tell you real quick, because the Spirit speaks. And just go to take it to God. He'll tell you real quick. No, don't mess with them. Don't mess with them. There's been times when I saw people on YouTube and I was like, oh, the title looks very interesting. And the Spirit's like, no. Go to the next one. And I say, okay. Because I know once people get into their messages and stuff like that, that's when you start seeing all this other stuff. And it's just like, it's not godly. So be careful of these distractions. With that being said,